Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. This video is intended for those taking their first steps into firearms ownership, as I wanted to make some firearms basics videos to help you as you learn about your new purchase. In an effort to keep them short, I'm going to make a small series of them focusing on just a couple of things in each one. These will not be fully in-depth on any particular gun, as there's so many different kinds it would be impossible to cover them all in detail. So these will be higher level overviews. You can watch the ones that apply to you and skip the ones that don't. This video is on handguns. While generally people use two hands, by definition a handgun is a firearm that's meant to be operated and fired by one hand. There's no rear stock or forward vertical grip. There's two main classifications of handguns, revolvers and pistols. In this video we're going to focus specifically on semi-automatic pistols. A simple definition of a semi-automatic firearm is one that uses the energy of being fired to reload a new cartridge in the chamber ready to be fired again by manual action of the trigger. The energy can come from either recoil of the gun during its firing, vented gases from the barrel, or direct counteraction of the energy used to propel the bullet out of the barrel. There's a large variety of ways this is done, as well as the sub-actions of how the gun is operated. There's too many to go into detail, but they generally share several common characteristics. They possess a single grip attached to the bottom of the frame that's intended to be grasped by one hand, and the other hand is commonly used to support. This grip houses the magazine well that contains a detachable magazine that holds the ammunition. The barrel is contained within a slide that's fitted along the top of the frame, and generally the slide reciprocates back and forth in operation. Once the trigger is pulled, the cartridge is ignited and the bullet is fired out of the barrel. The slide will move rearward, ejecting the empty case, and as the slide returns forward under spring pressure, it will strip a new cartridge out of the magazine and chamber it in preparation to be fired again when the trigger is pulled. This firing sequence occurs faster than can be detected by the eye, and it's possible therefore to fire off rounds as fast as the trigger can be pressed until the magazine is empty, at which time the slide will usually lock back, indicating that it is empty. Let's take a look at some examples. So first basic of firearm safety, the first rule, assume the firearm is always loaded. Even if you just unloaded it, when you go to pick it up, assume that it's loaded. So first thing you need to do before handling any firearm is ensure that it is in fact free and clear of any ammunition. So first thing, go ahead and remove the magazine. And in this case, we see that there is ammunition in the magazine. Now this is a dummy round, it's practice ammunition, so it's not real, just for demonstration purposes. Now, just because I removed the magazine from the pistol doesn't mean that the pistol itself does not still have a round in the chamber and it could still fire if you pulled the trigger. So some firearms will have a safety or a disconnect where if you remove the magazine it will not function. Some don't. This particular one, the Beretta 92, does not have a magazine disconnect, so if there were live ammunition in there and you pulled the trigger, it would go off whether the magazine is in there or not. So now you need to take any ammunition in the pistol and remove it. So to do that, you would manually operate the slide. So make sure your finger stays off the trigger, and you would just pull the slide back, and the live round comes out. Now, you can't just pull that back and then assume that it's empty. You need to lock the slide back and manually and visually check make sure the chamber is empty. The chamber's right there. Two things can happen. A round could still be in the chamber, and you would be able to see it right there. I mean, it's visible. However, it may not come out with the slide. Now, it should if the pistol is operating as it should. There's what's called the extractor. The extractor on the Beretta is right there. And what that does is it grasps the rim of the cartridge so that when you pull the slide back, it will pull that cartridge out. Then there's what's called the ejector. It's right here. And what the ejector does is when you pull the slide back, the extractor will pull the cartridge back with the slide. It will hit the ejector, which will then pop it out of the gun. Two things could happen. The extractor may fail. Perhaps the little claw on it, it breaks. Maybe it gets some gunk up underneath it to where it can't grip the cartridge. Whatever the case may be, it might not grasp the cartridge. So when you pull the slide back, it might not actually grasp the cartridge and pull it back. So in that case, you could have a situation where you pull the slide back and the cartridge itself doesn't come back. So then you think it's empty, and if you pulled the trigger, bang, the gun just went off and you thought it was empty. Another thing that can happen, however, is the ejector itself may fail. It could break or something could happen, and then you could have a situation like this. This is a Taurus 92. It's basically a copy of the Beretta 92. So we'll go ahead and chamber one of those rounds. Keep in mind, this is not live ammunition. So we go ahead and remove the magazine. Magazine's empty. So now we'll go ahead and we'll pull the slide back, and we would think it would be empty. However, if you notice, if you see it real quick, and the reason why I use this particular pistol is because it's very open, you can see it. If this were a different pistol, you might not actually get a good visual of it because the Beretta has an open slide. Everything's very visible. But as you can see, the extractor is pulling that cartridge out, but there's no ejector, or the ejector is broken, so it doesn't eject it. So then when you let go of the slide, all you've done is you've just reloaded the firearm with that same bullet. So you need to make sure that you lock it back and you visually inspect, and at this point you can readily see that that ammunition is there. So you need to make sure that you visually inspect. Don't just pull the slide back and let it go forward. You'll even see people do this, and then in their mind, oh, it's got to be empty because I pulled the slide back several times. You can do that for hours with a broken ejector, and that bullet will still be in the chamber. You go to pull the trigger and bang, you just fired the weapon when you thought it was empty. So you need to visually check that chamber to make sure that it's empty. Most semi-automatic firearms that you will run across will have a magazine release button located right about here on the grip frame, usually just behind the trigger. And on most of them you just push in and that would release the magazine. So in this case, this is a Beretta 92. You push in, magazine is free and clear. So to lock the slide back, this is the slide lock right here. So you could pull the slide back while lifting up on that, and then that will lock it in place so you can check the chamber area. So you'd go ahead and pull the slide back, lift up, and then that locks it in place. And we can see the chamber area there is free and clear. On the Glock series of firearms, this is a Glock 17, however they operate pretty much all the same way. There again, the magazine release behind the trigger, and right here, this button, if you notice, is square but operates the same way. You'd simply push in on that and that would release the magazine. Magazine is free and clear. Next step would be to pull the slide back. This is the slide lock right here, so you would push that up. Then you can let the slide go forward, it'll lock into place. And we can see the chamber area is free and clear. Next we'll take a look at the Ruger LC9S. There again, have the magazine release button right there. You push that in, magazine's free and clear. Here's our slide lock. Operates the same way, pull back on the slide while lifting up on that. And we can see the chamber area is free and clear. Another style of magazine release you might run across is what's called a paddle style. And on those type, it's a little paddle, and a lot of times it'll be on both sides of the trigger, or the trigger guard toward the bottom. And on those you would simply just push down on either side, and that will release the magazine. So you just push down, and that would release the magazine. The final type of magazine release we'll look at is what's called a heel release. And in those cases, there's a button or on the back of the heel, and you would simply push in on that, and that would release the magazine. So those are the primary types of magazine release that you were likely to encounter. Next thing we want to cover would be other controls commonly found on a firearm. Now, we already covered the magazine release and the slide lock. The next step would be whether there's a safety or not. This is a Glock firearm. The Glock family of firearms does not have any type of manual safety. So basically you would point it at your target, pull the trigger to fire. There is no other safeties involved. The Beretta series, the Beretta 92 anyway, has a safety that's mounted on the slide. It's right here. With most safeties, there'll be usually like a red dot, or it might even say F for fire. And so in this case, there's a red dot, that means the safety is off. In this case, you would pull the lever down to cover that, and that would be the safety is on. On the Ruger LC9S, this particular one has a safety. This pistol was available with a safety or without. And there again, you have the little red dot there. You would lift up on that one, and a white dot would show, showing that it's safe. This is a Kel-Tec P17. There again, we have our red dot there, and in this case, this is a little lever that goes up and down. So goes up for safe, down for fire. That's very similar to the Kel-Tec PMR30. There again, has the red lever there, or red dot there, and the lever. So safe and ready to fire. Okay, next we want to cover how you load the magazine. So, have some ammunition here. This is our Glock magazine. Whether it's the Glock or the Beretta, or even like a 22 magazine on the P17, they're all very similar in how they function. There's a couple of what's called feed lips, usually about halfway back on the magazine. If this is the front of the magazine, that's the back. About halfway, there'll be the feed lips that come over the top a little bit. So you would take your cartridge, have it face forward. You'd put it in front of those feed lips, push down. So you'd push down and then slide the cartridge back. And then you would repeat. A lot of times it's helpful to push down a little bit with your other finger or other hand. So push in and slide back. In and slide back, and you would repeat this action until the magazine is full. Now in this case, it's what's called a double stack magazine. The magazine actually is internally in two stacks or two columns that go back and forth, and it goes back and forth like that, and the idea is that it will hold more rounds than trying to go just in a single row. In this case, this is a 17-round magazine. So you would keep putting ammunition in until it's full. Now, with most magazines, when you start getting toward the end of its capacity, in this case it'd be 17, so toward the end you hit around 15 rounds, it is start getting more and more difficult to put those rounds in, and especially when magazines are new. So that's normal. Once the magazine is used some and it gets broken in, the spring, it technically gets a little bit weaker, but still functions fine. It allows you to put that in fuller. So a lot of times, especially when magazines are new, you might only be able to get maybe 15 rounds in a 17-round magazine, and that's normal until, like I said, until it breaks in. So to remove ammunition from a magazine, once you put it in, toward the back, you can see the back of the rim of the cartridge, the one that's on top. You would simply just push the cartridge out of the front of the magazine. Until it's empty. This is the Beretta magazine. Same idea. Put it in front of the feed lips, push down, and then slide the cartridge back. And so on. Then you keep putting the rounds in. This particular magazine would hold 15. Now, this is the magazine for the LC9S. It's what's called a single stack magazine, and that's because the ammunition is stored in it in a single stack. Like that. It loads the same way. You have the feed lips that are right there. So you'd put the cartridge in front of the feed lips, push down, and then slide it back. And repeat. Now in the case of this magazine, it has witness holes on the side so you can know how many rounds are loaded, and this one holds 7. I didn't show you that on the Beretta. The Beretta has no marking, so some magazines they have no way of letting you know. You just have to count as you put them in to know when you're getting close to being full. And again, remove the ammunition the same way. I have a couple of dummy rounds here. We'll go ahead and load these in. So once you have your magazine filled with the ammunition you want to put in, you would insert the magazine into the grip or the magazine well of the pistol and push in all the way. It should click, and don't be afraid to, to slap it if you need to make sure that it is in fact fully seated. At this point, to load the firearm itself, that just puts the magazine in the pistol. There's still no ammunition loaded. You would pull the slide back fully to the rear and then let go. You're not going to hurt the pistol by doing that. When the pistol fires, the slide reciprocates so fast you can't even really see it, so that will not hurt it. However, trying to gently ease the magazine forward could cause it to hang up. See right there, it kind of got stuck. Whereas if I would have just let it go, it would have just loaded with no problem at all. Now, when the last round is fired, the slide will lock back like it is here. If you notice, that's how it would look. On the Beretta, it looks like that. So at that point, if you had your fresh magazine, you take the old magazine out. You can put the new magazine in. And at this point, you could either pull down on the slide release and it will let the slide go forward and load the magazine, or you could pull back slightly on the slide and let go, and then the magazine is ready to fire, or the pistol is ready to fire again. There are simply too many different kinds of pistols, each with their own unique features, to really be able to cover them all in detail in a single video. I recommend that you read the owner's manual that came with your pistol, as it should go over all of its features. You can also find detailed videos on a variety of specific guns on my channel, as well as on other channels on YouTube, and those can assist you in detail as well. I hope that this information is of value, and if you liked the video, I would ask that you hit the like button and subscribe if you want to continue to see more like this. I appreciate your viewership, and I value your comments and feedback. And as always, until next week, stay safe.